Rigathi Gachagua finds himself once again navigating the legal landscape as he seeks to block the impending impeachment motion set for deliberation in the Senate this coming week. In an urgent application submitted to the Milimani High Court, the DP outlines a series of at least 10 grievances which he claims highlight an unfair process aimed at undermining him. He's calling on the court to issue an order preventing the Senate from advancing with the impeachment hearing. Now, considering this marks about 24 attempts, either personally or through intermediaries, to thwart his removal from office, with previous legal efforts yielding little success, it will be interesting to see the court's decision. And to understand the legalities surrounding this process, I'm joined by legal experts this evening in studio. Ishmael Nyaribo, advocate of the High Court, thank you for joining us once again. Kibe Mungai is also joining us, constitutional lawyer. Thank you for making the time for us. Now, considering what we've seen and the developments so far on the impeachment of the Deputy President, I'll begin with you, Wakili Ishmael. Your initial thoughts on where we are at this point?
Yeah, I think, the Deputy President is saying the process is maybe unconstitutional, and my brother is here to, shed more light on this. But I think the process is constitutional. The process is legal. The process is regular. What I think most people are asking, is the motive correct? Because you see, you can put in motion a legal process, but probably the motive and the calculations behind that may not be correct. But in terms of allowing members of parliament to inquire into his conduct, that is constitutional. That's what the law provides. And once they have dealt with it, then they have to hand it over to the Senate. I mean, if they decide to say you cannot step in office, now that the National Assembly has already impeached you, then that would be regular. That would be unconstitutional. So I think it's a regular process going on. And I think that Kenya is really grown, Zainab. I mean, we can go to this level. We can impeach a deputy president. I think Kenyan democratic space has really matured. Mm-hmm. We hope that this issue of people disappearing and the people in power feeling like offended just through a normal democratic process will stop. Let the deputy president be impeached all the way. We hope, many of us hope he survives in the Senate. But let us express our views. That is part of the democratic space. So I believe this is a legal process. It's a constitutional process. But whether it is a genuine constitutional process without any interference in between, that is, I think, where the deputy president has issues with his boss and also with the members of parliament who have impeached him. Yeah.
Right. Wakili Kibe, when you're looking at the constitutionality of the process itself, of course, the deputy president, through his legal experts, have poked holes on the process leading to the National Assembly voting to impeach him. What are your thoughts on the process so far?
I think my thoughts on the process is that we could have done better. And first of all, I agree with my colleague, Mr. Ishmael Nyaribo, that the Constitution does indeed provide for impeachment of state officials. And he's the highest casualty that we are having. We've been having governors and everybody else. During the demonstrations that were going on, during the public civic education, what a public participation forum, you had a lot of Kenyan people saying, we want both of them, not one. So it is an important safeguard to ensure that nobody gets away with three things. One, violations of the law, that is a violation of the Constitution itself. Number two, misconduct. Number three, where there are reasons to believe that you've committed a crime under our laws or our international law. Now, on all those issues, remember, all these are issues that in the ordinary course of business, they are issues that you take before the High Court or courts of law. But impeachment, we say it is a political process for two reasons. Reason number one is that the charges are made, are preferred, as we would say in law, and approved by the National Assembly by a 2/3 vote. And the trial does not take place in court, but in the Senate. That is, so that the only reason would be this, that it is a political process for the simple reason that it is politicians in charge of it, not lawyers, as in the criminal or normal process. But that is where it ends. After all that, remember, you must come up with charges that clearly demonstrate there is a violation of the Constitution or the law or misconduct. Now, we shall say something about the charges on what the lawyer people are calling threshold, whether the accusations against the deputy president
hold water.
Actually hold water. That's a separate argument. But up to where we are, I would say as a constitutional lawyer, the issue of Deputy President Gachagua, strictly speaking to many Kenyans, is an issue of infighting in a tyrant's party, that is UDA. And if they want to devour themselves, very many Kenyans would not have any, would not shed tears for that. But having said that, there are two things that are important to me from the outset. Number one, what is on trial here? What is on trial on the face of it appear to wear the face of Deputy President Gachagua? But I think it is the Constitution of Kenya that is on trial. On trial in the sense that if, for example, you end up impeaching the Deputy President simply because the President who is clearly behind this motion can be able to get 2/3 in the National Assembly and 2/3 in the Senate, it would be the biggest letdown for our constitutions, because it would effectively mean that the President can sack the Deputy President. When we said that elect the President together with the President, what the founders of the makers of the Constitution wanted to avoid is a situations whereby the person who can assume the presidency and with the nod of the people can just be sacked without justification. So that would have been a serious failure for our Constitution. Issue number two, in my view, is the integrity of the institutions that were designed to protect the constitutions. We have already had the National Assembly. Clearly, the Speaker and his deputy were supposed to be impartial. We all know they were not. At the National Assembly, you expected that at the very minimum, the MPs, particularly those who support the motion, would tell us why. But they were voting and they were told. I listened to the entire motion. They were told, come and say your name and say whether you support. And of course the question, and that is why like in most of central Kenya, people have a problem processing it, is for this reason. On what basis for those charges did you say you support? They were not even allowed to say, I support for these reasons. I have followed impeachment proceedings in other countries. And you would say like nearly everybody else is actually standing up and justifying why. Issue number two is at the Senate.
Okay.
At the Senate, the issue of this, that has not taken place. At the Senate, you know, when you have charges, unlike the National Assembly, greater responsibility will be expected of senators. As in if you say, I stole, okay? And the land, like it turned out according to the Deputy President, is land that I bought, would you expect the senators to say on what grounds did the Deputy President steal a land that he appears to have bought? So it is a big test for the Senate. Finally, the